Welcome to 7 Dooms for Sandpoint. Interlude 3 of our Sandpoint stories. Millie, Blood on the Sand. In Sandpoint, law and order rely on a fragile balance between the town guard and the citizens who rely on them. When that balance is compromised, specialists are summoned. This is one of those stories. Oath Day, 2nd Eridus, 4702 AR, 6:14 AM. Junk Beach, Sandpoint's North Shore. The wind off the Varisian Gulf cuts cold this morning, sharp as a razor through your cloak. A gull cries overhead, then falls silent as you duck under the yellowed rope line the guards strung up an hour ago. The body lies half buried in the sand and sea foam, naked, pale, and terribly still. The morning tide has washed away much of the blood, but not the violence. The man's neck is carved open in 3 long, deliberate strokes. Deep slashes rake across his torso. His hands and feet, severed cleanly, have been stacked with ritual precision beside him. Worst of all, his eyes are gone. His tongue is missing, the mouth hanging open in a rictus of terror. Describe in this moment the young Millie that we see and how she approaches this grisly scene.
So, Millie pulls her cloak a little tighter around herself, against the breeze and the stench. And as she approaches the scene where the body is, she has been an adventurer at this point for 4 years, and she's still never seen anything like this. So she quickly runs to the side of the border, the tape border or rope border, and vomits into the sand. As she coughs weakly, dabbing her mouth with a handkerchief, kind of keeping the handkerchief under her nose. She approaches the body, and is the lead investigator already present?
As you sort of stand up, wiping your mouth, you see Guardsman Tarmac stands nearby. His face is ash gray, has the look of somebody who also recently vomited. He's the one who found the body during his morning shoreline patrol. He doesn't speak to you right away. His eyes flick from the mutilated corpse to you and back again. Then he swallows hard and he clears his throat. The victim's name is Philippe Corsa. Good man. Worked the docks. His wife, Gilia, and their little girl live in the south part of town. He glances over at the corpse and kind of flinches away.
Oh my gosh. Who would be capable of doing something like this?
You notice that even the gulls and the crabs seem to be keeping their distance for now. As you stand here, you smell the blood, the brine, the decay, and something faintly metallic, wrong in a way that prickles at the back of your neck. He looks at you, Guardsman Tarmac, and says, isn't that why you're here to figure out? You have a crime scene before you. What would you like to do?
I am going to investigate for anything that looks like it might have been left behind by the perp. Footy prints, cigarette butts. Cigarette butts? Were cigarette butts a thing?
I think we've established
Cigarette
there's
roaches.
well, I will say this. I can say that in one of our previous one of these previous Sandpoint stories, it was established that people were smoking cigars. So I've always
Okay.
believed that there's definitely people have figured out how to roll up. I mean, hobbits figured it out with pipe weed.
Right. Of
So
course.
yeah, smoking's a thing.
Okay. So so Millie's going to look near the body, but also in the areas that seem like they could have been points, assuming based on the amount of blood that's here that this is where the crime took place, where the likely points of entrance and egress would be.
So let's start with a perception check.
Magnificent. Roll that.
And as we've said in the past, I have sort of a baseline DC, but it's the higher you roll, the more information you discover.
I'm gonna use a die.
Gonna spend some of them.
I know, it's so abysmally low. It's so
Okay.
low. So low, it's not much better. 12.
Okay. It's not great. You learn
It's
some
horrible.
things. You learn some things. You look around, and I just imagine one of those long, slow, sweeping, like, curve shots passing by. This is Junk Beach, so we know that people discard trash and old furniture and building refuse, things like that. So the camera, as it shifts, there's probably like the bow of a broken rowboat that passes in front, and guard Tarmac standing there watching you look around and checking all of this area. You see that a lot of the blood has already been washed away by the morning tide. There's still some blood up around the body itself, but unfortunately, it seems that any footprints were probably washed away with that same tide. Something about the location of this body suggests to you this might have been intentional. You're not sure 100% on that. You could delve a little deeper, trying to figure out where the killer may have originated, how they may have gotten here or gotten the body here with a survival check. You can examine the wounds for medicine with a medicine check. You could question Guardsman Tarmac a bit more, or if you can think of anything else you'd like to try.
Yep. All of these skills are quite bad.
Oh.
So I will say that Millie will examine the body and the wounds.
Okay, so that's gonna be a
With-
medicine check.
Okay. That's a 16.
Okay. So, looking at the wounds, as we said, there are 3 distinct slash marks on the throat, slashes across the chest, the hands and feet severed, the eyes removed, and the tongue removed. With that 16, you notice that the slashes across the chest they look like they were made deep and quick, kind of jagged. These look like they may have been done in anger, possibly the wounds that took down this individual. The wounds at the throat, while in no way medically surgical, they're a little more precise in that they were made in order to remove the tongue. There's no cut marks around the eye sockets. It looks like they may have actually been removed by another manner. And finally, the hands and feet. These are not jagged. These are not... the blood that remains, yes, there is a fair amount of blood, but there seems to have been almost, you could say, a care taken. Like, you look at the wound on the severed hand and you look at that wrist where it was cut from, and it looks like you could place it back up against there and almost cleanly reattach it. Somebody took their time with this and then neatly stacked these severed limbs next to the body.
Oh, and what is it? Millie examines the hands. They're not like closed or holding anything or anything, right? They're
curled, just in rigor. You know, the relaxed tendons. Each hand seems to be holding its own, you know, the foot. Each foot was placed in the hands.
Oh, well, whoever did this sure did take care with these dismembered body parts.
Yeah, that's it's gross. And you see Tarmok kind of turns and sorry, I know it's not very professional of me, but this isn't normal.
Do you happen to know where did the killer do this?
She gestures at the body parts.
Do this with the other bodies?
It's always the same. Sheriff Averton said he'd tell you more about it when he gets in this morning. He wanted you to go up to the garrison when you're done here.
Millie dusts her hands off, dusts some sand off of her breeches. Like,
Well, I think I've seen all that I need to see here. Let's go ahead and get off to the garrison.
A cold wind stirs the sand overhead. The gulls are crying, and you see a carrion bird, a buzzard, the first beginning the circle. As you dust yourself off and prepare to head into town, Guardsman Tarmok tells you that he's waiting. He's got to wait until they can collect the body. And I think with this, we sort of see, looking back to where you came in under that yellow rope, that there are some other guardsmen, and they're trying to work out how to get a two-wheeled cart down to the beach so that they can bring the body up and either to the barracks or to the boneyard, wherever they need to go. With that, we will go to our next scene. Oath Day, 2nd of Veritas, 4702 AR, 8:53 a.m., Sheriff's Office, Sandpoint Garrison. Sheriff Casp Averton sits behind a cluttered desk. The morning light catches the silver in his hair. A mug of coffee sits untouched, the surface long since grown cold. A half-empty bottle of spirits sits open within arm's reach. When he looks up at you, the exhaustion on his face is plain. The redness in his cheeks and his nose suggests that you have no question where that other half of that bottle's gone this morning. Seeing you, he motions for you to take a seat opposite his desk. This was a quiet town when I first came up here. Sure, we've got our fair share of problems. Drunk fights gone wrong, lovers' quarrels, robbery with a blade at midnight. Sandpoint's no stranger to that sort of ugliness. But then, these killings started. We knew right away these were different, worse. Each one, the same pattern. Eyes gone, tongues plucked out like rotten fruit, hands and feet severed and stacked like some kind of God's damn display. After the third body, we knew we had a serial killer on our hands. The townsfolk are the one that started calling him Chopper. He kind of looks past you for a moment. His eyes kind of flickering around. He has that look of somebody who's reliving the scenes, seeing these grisly murders once again. He turns and he looks back at you. I've seen a lot of fucked up shit in Magnemar. Gangs carving each other up, bodies dumped in the water. People doing things to each other that make your blood curdle. But this... God, Millie, I ain't never seen anything like this. He places a trembling hand atop a stack of parchment, scrolls, files. 24 bodies. 24 people. 24 people. Every day. Every goddamn day another victim shows up. And I can't catch the bastard. He's always one step ahead, always slipping away.
Do you suspect that it's somebody local?
Well, that's why I brought you in, Millie. Because I'm out of ideas. And I'm afraid Sandpoint's out of time.
Did you question any people who are staying at the White Deer or the Rusty Dragon?
Did the hostel exist yet?
Yeah.
Or that other place where folks just grab a bed for cheap or free?
In Vosti's place.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the first things we did. We looked into any transients, any travelers, adventurers passing through town. Thing was, when the first 4 or 5 victims happened, there wasn't anybody new in town. There have been people come through, sure, in the last 3-4 weeks since this all started, but... And yeah, we've questioned people. I mean, I might be out of ideas, but I'm still a cop.
Right. Well, this is obviously very difficult for you, especially being so damn sure that it's one of your own, or one of Sandpoint's own. You're technically from Magnamar.
Well, it's been 10 years since I've even been back to Magnamar. And, well, with Mom and my sisters here, this place has quickly become home, but I don't like the shadow that's fallen over my threshold, Millie.
Well, I would think that whoever's responsible has to be young and fit enough to be able to move the bodies around, control their victims. So there are certain people we can just rule out right away. Usually something like this, people who are capable of doing something like this, I would imagine that they probably would have had something very bad happen to them recently. Has anybody recently lost a spouse? Or a child?
There's nothing like that seemed to have happened in the time leading up. I mean, we dug in looking for all kinds of leads like that when the first couple victims happened, and we went back and even re-questioned people when we realized that we had a serial killer. No unusual deaths, no sudden loss. Things were goddamn idyllic here, up until these murders.
You've increased patrols at night.
We've had to. I've got a young deputy, Baylor Hemlock. He's been pulling doubles since this started. I'm going to have you link up with him over the next few days. I'd like to have you actually go on a patrol out on the streets with him.
I think that's probably a very good idea.
You could also, if you would like, you could take a look at the, you could take a look at the files, and looking at the files, there's a couple things you could check out specifically. You could look for escalation patterns. You could look for any correlation between the victims, the locations of the bodies, maybe where patrols have missed the murders, or where this chopper, if he has any favorite spots.
Right, that's what Millie would be first looking for, the obvious things like degree based on the location, degree of privacy, visibility, times of the killings if known. Kitty.
Go ahead.
And
Sorry, continue.
oh no, it's fine.
I'm going to say go ahead and make a society check.
Oh. Okay. That's a 22.
Okay. We'll call that a 24. I was going to give you a +2 circumstance bonus because you have the luxury of being able to sit here and flip through these files. I'm imagining this almost like once Averton sort of turns you loose, says what he has to. It's sort of like a mini montage of you. The stack of parchment and scrolls sort of gets spread out slowly, gets shorter, and then new, more organized stacks appear. Averton is sitting there, and then he's not, and then he's sitting there, and anytime he, after he's been sitting there while you've been looking through stuff, we just see that by way of like the sands through an hourglass, we see the volume in that half bottle of liquor just getting smaller and smaller. You can't help but notice that these
Millie's got a little glass of her own, like a little snifter, and it's got 2 fingers in it, and it's hardly moved in all of that time.
You can't help but notice it seems that these murders have really taken their toll on Sheriff Averton, and he looks like this bottle is just one bottle in a long line of bottles that he's been soothing his nerves with. With your 24, that's actually a critical success, actually. I was just looking, in my society DC was 14. So 24 is a critical success. The things that you notice with that critical success, you're going to get a bunch of information from this, and I think this is sort of indicative of the way you've organized these files as you've been digging through them. The first thing you've noticed is the sheer volume of attacks. As Averton said, they've basically been every day.
Like once a day for almost a month.
For almost a month, every day, 24 people have been murdered, including this Philippe Corza. I think that was his name. I'm gonna double check. I want to make sure you get the right information in your notes. Yeah, Corza. The killer's bold. The timing between these, even though some of them have technically been one a day, in a couple instances, one appears to have been murdered by like 10, 11 o'clock at night. The next body was figured to have been murdered around 2 or 3 in the morning. So just within hours. The descriptions of the bodies, you saw those for yourself in this 24th victim. Vicious, jagged gashes in the takedown wounds. They weren't always like that. There were signs of blunt trauma. There were signs of strangulation. This killer is getting bolder. They're getting messier. The fact that they're becoming less cautious makes you think maybe they're either nearing a breaking point, or maybe they're planning something bigger. You've also noticed that the earlier descriptions of the bodies, the dismemberments, were less ritualistic. They were more anguished. But in the same way that the takedowns seem to have gotten more rash, once the victim is down and dead, the removing of the eyes, the tongue, and the hands and feet seems to have become more and more ritualistic. More care has been taken. All of this, especially the frequency, tells you two important facts. You have no doubt that this killer is local, and these murders and ritual dismemberment don't seem to be the act of an opportunistic person. They are signs of a compulsion. As you're coming to these conclusions, somewhere outside, probably it's a couple hours has gone by as you've been reviewing these files. A bell tolls, probably from the not too distant Sandpoint Cathedral, and Sheriff Averton jumps, startled. On to our next scene.
Ooh.
Fire Day, 3rd of Eridus, 4702 AR, 3:27 PM. Interrogation room, the Sandpoint Barracks. That music just went really weird. I don't know if you heard that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's, I don't know, it's weirdly on point though, because he's a Shoanti man, and Baylor Hemlock stands behind the interrogation table. His arms are folded, his jaws clenched. The room is stark. Stone walls, one lantern overhead, the steady tap of rain against the window. The room is darker than it would normally be because of the not really storms, but it's afternoon rain with dark gray clouds. Sitting at the table is Chad Bevik, the red-faced butcher of the Sandpoint Meat Market. His bandaged hand is held aloft dramatically, as though its very existence is proof of the tale he's telling. Hemlock motions for you to observe this interrogation. Chad leans forward. I'm telling you, Chopper almost got me. You know? Look, he took my fucking finger clean off. As he holds his hand up, you can see where his index finger has been removed. The rag's bloody. As Hemlock begins to question him, you get a sense that Chad struggles to maintain a consistent story. Tell me what happened, and stick to the facts. It's like I told you. He dropped down from the roof like he was some kind of spider beast. His eyes, they were glowing like torches. And he came at me swinging a big curved knife. Hemlock looks at him, just narrowing his eyes, and you can see in the lantern light from above, you can practically see the beads of perspiration forming on Chad's forehead. Wait. No. He didn't drop. He sort of crawled out of the shadows, right? It was really quiet. Knife? No. It wasn't a knife. It was claws, sharp claws like a demon's. You just said it was a knife. I meant a claw that looks like a knife. Claws can look like knives. They're curved, and I don't know. Maybe he didn't crawl and drop. But if he didn't crawl and he didn't drop, he certainly flew It could have been a cloak, but it could have been wings, like a gargoyle. And he swooped down and took my finger right off. Hemlock just pinches the bridge of his nose. And he looks over to you. And he doesn't even say a word. He just goes, like motioning you if you want to take a stab at getting this guy to tell a coherent story.
Millie pulls up a chair at the table in front of Chad.
Oh, hi, Chad. This is quite an ordeal you've been through.
Yeah, it has. At least somebody recognizes that. Look, I ain't got no fucking finger.
Where did this happen, Chad?
It was out in the back alley behind the meat market.
Okay. Did you retrieve your finger?
Did I retrieve my... I just told you a demon thing with claws and flying came down out of the rooftops and took my finger off. I didn't have time to pick it up. I ran as fast as I could and got out of there.
Oh, that's a shame. It's possible that we could have had a priest reattach it. Well, that's neither here nor there. So was anybody else around the alleyway at that time?
Nah. It was just me and Chopper.
Okay, were you working alone? Is there anyone else in the shop?
It's just a small butcher. I handle everything myself. I ain't got no need to pay somebody to do work I can do. Although, I don't know, practically took my whole hand off. I don't know how I'm going to work through this. I've been butchering in that shop for 15 years. I ain't even cut my own fingers. And some freak comes out of the shadows and takes my finger. Why don't you make a diplomacy check for me?
Alrighty. All right, that's going to be a dirty 20.
The more you talk to him, something about your presence seems to get through to him a little bit. He says, I don't know, it was pretty terrifying. I mean, it could have just been a man, but he was big and strong and hooded, and he had this smell about him. It was like wet, rotten wood, or I don't know, maybe fish. And then he looks past you suddenly and goes, "Stop looking at me like that!" To where Hemlock is just looking at him.
Don't you pay him any attention.
And Millie pats his unbandaged hand.
That's good. You're remembering details, and that's going to be so important.
Make a sense motive. Which actually is it's a diplomacy check
Perception?
again.
Oh,
Sense motive is diplomacy, but it's usually an action referred to as sense motive.
Okay. That's a 25.
That is a
Diplomacy
critical.
is one of my good ones.
That is a critical success. To whatever degree something happened to Chad Bevik whether or not he was actually attacked by Chopper, you're not 100% sure. But what you are sure of is that he was attacked by someone, and he believes that it was Chopper. And in all of his tales, it was the last one that seemed to ring the most true. More facts seem to have been in that last version than any of his previous versions. This is a man who you've probably picked up in your couple days in town now. Chad Bevic is not known for being a man of telling the truth. He's prone to tall tales, and he's the guy in the bar. You know what he is? He's Chunk. I mean, really, that's what he is. He's Chunk. He's always telling stories, and so much so that when he may tell true stories, people don't necessarily believe him. But you can also tell Chad is terrified.
Oh, well. Thank you for all of those details, Chad.
And Millie looks over at Hemlock.
I think it's time that we let this poor man get home and get some rest.
Yeah. Let me go home. And he looks at Hemlock and he goes, "Look, I know what I saw." And he kind of wipes his nose on his sleeve. I know what I saw. And God's help us if it comes back.
Did he say what time this happened?
Really
Really recently, right?
He didn't specifically, but it's about 3:30 in the afternoon. So, it would have happened early this morning, probably around the time he was opening up shop. And it is Fire Day, so it's the day after the previous victim was discovered. One of the guards, Hemlock, just kind of motions, and one of the guardsmen, in fact, guardsman Tormach from the other day, helps Chad up and leads him out of the room. Baylor looks at you. Well, what are your thoughts?
Well, I can tell you with almost absolute certainty that is not your guy. Which is great, because ruling out the butcher in town is a big deal, because all signs were kind of pointing to him at first.
Well, I wasn't so concerned that Chad Bevic was a serial killer. The man can barely find his own ass to wipe it. I don't think he's got it in him, butcher or no, to do the things that have been done to these victims. I was more concerned about whether there was even a grain of truth in his claim, because this here, it's probably just as likely this man would cut off his own finger to be able to tell a story like this.
Oh, no, his fear was quite real, I assure you. But of course, his details were a little elaborate, but I think that his assessment that the figure was hooded and had a peculiar smell are relevant details to this investigation.
So we're not looking for a flying spider demon.
Oh, heavens no.
You could tell he was being very sarcastic right in that moment.
No
God.
claws, but it's possible that I'd have to re-examine the wounds, but they do seem to align with the weapon being a curved blade.
He kind of looks past you down the hall. Well, he's still out there if you want to look at his wound.
Millie kind of wrinkles her nose. It's not something I would like to do, but I feel it's necessary.
So are you going to go out and catch Chad before he's released out into the wild?
Oh no, not for the finger. She wouldn't be able to tell if it was a curved blade based on the finger. She's thinking more the long marks on the torso.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah,
now
yeah.
She's got to go find that body. But yeah.
I think we'll do sort of like a little bit of a wipe transition, and you're in a basement area that has yesterday's victim in it still. Today's the last day they want to keep the body in. They're kept in the basement, obviously, because it's cooler down here. And they have a room that has been magically treated to keep it cooler than normal for, unfortunately, reasons like this. But looking around the room, you also see that given that there's not a whole lot of need to keep bodies in cold storage, there's like food and things like that are kept in the same area. They're using as like a cold storage for perishables. But yeah, the Corza man is still down here, and we see sort of that bright lantern light again with the magical elements. I think it's almost like I'm picturing very close to like a coroner's room in a procedural crime show, except instead of the yellow flickering light of a lantern, there's probably something that's been magically had light, like an ever burning. What?
What is it? Millie would have cast detect magic at this crime scene.
Yeah, I can tell you.
And nothing happens.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if we looked back on that, there would be no signs of magic having been cast at the crime scene. We can say that was definitely something that Millie did during that opening scene of your investigation while the camera slowly panned around. You ruled that out pretty quickly, that this seems to be the act of either a non-magical person or somebody using mundane means by which to carry out what they're doing. But in this room, yeah, there's sort of more of a cold white light, as there's something that's had light cast upon it. And the body is laid out on a thick wooden table, a modesty sheet placed across the midsection. Go ahead, as you're looking at the body, go ahead and make another medicine check, and I'll give you a +2 circumstance bonus because you have better lighting, better conditions, and more time to examine what you're doing.
So that's an 18 on the die. A plus how much?
+2.
20. I don't have any bonuses.
Okay, so it's not a critical success, but as you take a look at, I'm going to say that in addition to the body directly, you are also able to reference somebody on the town watch has a little bit of artistic talent and has been putting that talent to work, sketching some of the previous bodies, the wounds, and so there's several rolled up pieces of parchment that you have that you can sort of look at and compare the wounds. And while there is that sort of quick, jagged nature to the wound, indicating that it was done in haste, you can still tell that the actual cut marks themselves are clean. This was done with a very sharp blade. It just was done with more stabbing and repeated stabbing and cutting and stabbing and cutting.
But the dismemberments show that this person actually has has a lot of skill with this particular blade.
Yeah, they're able to take this blade and use it in a way that they're once the person's dead, they're taking their time to remove these limbs.
Is Hemlock down here with me? I would assume so. It wouldn't just be like, "Bye, Millie, see ya."
I don't think I don't think he's down there with you, but okay. He's in the garrison if you want to talk to him.
I think Millie might bring us the illustrations back up, and she would lay them out on the table in front of Hemlock. Be like,
"So, I'm not sure if you noticed or not, but these wounds to the torso area, which seem to be the cause of death, they're a bit frenzied, right? But then these other cuts are really quite clean and precise. So whatever type of blade's being used, again, it's a good thing I'm confident it's not that butcher, because whoever it is very proficient with this blade."
He's looking at these drawings as you're placing them before him, and you can see that he's doing that thing where he's looking at them and sort of, yeah, and nodding, but he has no idea. Like, he didn't notice these. He didn't make these connections. And he says,
"Maybe a fishmonger. Why, they use those long blades for boning the fish sometimes, usually down by the docks. Oh, and that would explain that smell."
Well, Sheriff wants you to go on patrol with me tomorrow night. I suppose down by the docks is as good a place as any to start. The victim from last night, or from yesterday, the Corza man, was from the docks. I don't know if this chopper found him up on the north side or took him down by the docks and dragged him all the way up there to Junk Beach, but
I reckon that the man was probably in the north end of town, because it would be no small feat to drag a victim all the way across town without being noticed by anyone.
Yeah. Well, Sheriff wanted me to give you free run of all the files, everything we have. Read up on what you need to today. Tomorrow night, we're hitting the streets together. And he kind of looks out the window and he looks at the rain and he goes, "I got a feeling this rain's going to persist for a bit. Things go dark like this, and you know he's not talking about the weather, he's talking about the murders. Well, the Storm Lord seems to show his fury. Dress warm. And with that,
Extra sweater will do.
with that, we're going to move into our fourth scene. Give me a second. Star Day. 4th of Aradis, 4702 AR, 11:49 PM. Streets of Sandpoint. Patrol. Rain patters on the eaves as you and Baylor Hemlock walk the quiet nighttime streets. Lantern light spilling across wet cobblestone. The silence hangs heavy for a while before Hemlock finally clears his throat. He doesn't look at you at first. I've been meaning to ask. Why'd the sheriff bring in someone from Magnamar? Sandpoint's not exactly short on guards, and we've handled some killers, smugglers, goblin raids. And he kind of looks at you sideways, no offense. But you're young.
Oh, none taken.
You're young.
Yes.
You're real young. Averton usually keeps things close to the vest. Never said a thing about sending for reinforcements, let alone someone he knew back in Magnamar. He stops beneath a lantern pole, and you see him. He's holding a lantern, but this brighter light is kind of illuminating from above, rain running down his armor, and he turns to face you directly. So why you? What makes the sheriff trust you with this?
Well, because we've known each other our whole lives, and he obviously knows I have nothing to do with it since the murders began before he called me in, and he identified right away that there was a element to this case that was very strange and unusual, and I myself am strange and unusual and have a knack for sniffing out some of these oddities, if you will. That was my specialty at the when I was doing my scholastic studies in Arcana. It's like the edge of occultism, but not quite.
So you're basically just out of university.
Oh, heavens no. I've been out of university for a couple years now, and I've been here and there and everywhere, doing odd jobs for folks. You know, dipping my toes into that adventuring life.
Well, if Sheriff Averton trusts you, then I guess I'm going to trust you too. Well, the docks seem to be awash, no pun intended, as you've made your way through the full length of the southern dock ward and seen nothing unusual. You're making your way up the eastern side of Sandpoint now, along the Tarandarock River, or nearby. There's the lumber mill and some other buildings that are kind of between the road, River Street, and you, as you're heading up north that way. when you hear a scream. Somewhere
Nearby?
up ahead, a couple blocks away. A little muffled by the rain, but Hemlock looks at you, eyes wide. This is not a stranger's scream. You both recognize this scream. It's Sheriff Averton.
Oh no. Millie's already taken off running
Hemlock
quickly because she's sprightly.
Hemlock takes off sprinting and is right on your heels. He goes, "That came from the alley behind the carpenter, Sawyer's Alley. Keep going, up ahead." You're following him, your boots splashing through puddles. You can hear your heartbeat thudding in your ears. And a few moments later, you round the corner and between a couple of buildings into a space behind the Carpenters off of River Road or River Street that Hemlock referred to as Sawyer's Alley. You come into a scene. Sheriff Averton lying on the ground, bleeding heavily from 2 deep slashes across his torso. A few feet away from him is another body. Steam rises still from the body. Jagged cuts in the chest. Mutilated, but only half finished. And just beyond them, illuminated by a flickering lantern light, a half a block away, a hunched, hooded figure, blood dripping from its knife. Pinpoints of reflected lantern light under the hood show 2 eyes wide with animal frenzy. Chopper. His eyes lock with you for a split second, and then he bolts into the darkness. Hemlock looks between you and Sheriff Averton lying on the ground. "Damn it! Gasp!" And he just looks to you, and he looks to the sheriff, and he takes off running.
Go, go, go!
So you're going to try to save Sheriff Averton?
Yes, I am.
Okay. You can attempt a medicine check to try to stabilize him. Or if you have other means you want to attempt.
Yeah, that's a 12.
As you are attempting to stabilize him, doing what you can, you hear him, his breath rasping, and he grabs your hand on his chest and squeezes. "Chopper, it was him."
Do you know who it was?
Stoot. And he starts coughing and gurgling, and he looks at you pleading and just says, "Find him."
Oh. You hang on, Casp. You hang on, you're not going anywhere.
He does not cough anymore. He does not breathe anymore. Sheriff Casp Averton, your family friend, dies.
God damn it, Casp!
You...
Stoot.
Do I know the name Stoot?
I don't know You can attempt a society check. It's going to be a really high DC.
Yeah, no, that's a 14.
This word, this name, whatever, it doesn't mean anything to you. You, in these moments, you can stay with Cass's body. You can investigate the other body that's here. You can try to follow Hemlock and go after Chopper.
Millie's going to open her cloak and send out her cat. Monte Cristo, brand new familiar to her. She's going to tell him,
Monty, fly up and look in the streets. Find Hemlock and the person he's chasing. Go.
and Monte Cristo takes off wherever. But
I think,
what is it?
I think Monte Cristo bristles at being summoned because instantly it's raining. Instantly, your split second, your newly summoned cat familiar is dry and fluffy, and then immediately gets soaking wet and gives you a look before heeding what you say. Now, is this like D&D where you can see through his eyes? And
what is it? We have the ability share senses. Once every 10 minutes, I can use a single action to project my senses into my familiar. When I do so, I lose all sensory information from my own body, but I can sense through the familiar's body for up to 1 minute. And I can dismiss this effect.
okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Um,
And while after I send Monte Cristo away, I do go and check on the other body. Is this anyone that I know?
So I think first, as you send off Monte Cristo, we see a momentary flash, just as you are assured that this familiar is taking off. We see just a glimpse of sort of a low POV as, with the cat-like night vision, Monte Cristo begins moving through, and even in the rain seems to almost magically be able to pick up a couple sets of more recent footprints and begins tracking those.
Yeah. He's got flyer also.
He's got what?
He flies.
Okay. So, yeah, then I think there's this point where we see that POV, once the footprints are seen, just sort of, I think we see leap onto some boxes, leap up onto a small overhang, leap onto a roof, run across, and then leap and just stay airborne. And we see these sort of magically enhanced footprints. And then we see several, at this point, a few blocks away, heading north and west. We see a hooded figure, and we see the armored figure of Baylor Hemlock giving chase. So, you know that Monte Cristo is on the case, and will track, so you have time to investigate the new victim.
Perfect. So what is it? You said that the other victim was incomplete, so I'm gonna go out on a limb and guess that I'm going to deduce that Casp interrupted what was happening.
That's a safe assumption.
Yeah.
And I'm just realizing that I think... No, never mind. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like Chopper was in the midst of his ritual on this victim and was interrupted by the sheriff, who, you know, Sheriff Averton wasn't actually supposed to be on patrol tonight. But nonetheless, he was here, interrupted Chopper, and was murdered for it. How would you like to investigate the new victim? You can do medicine, perception, occultism, society.
Oh, I'll do society if you'll let me do society.
So that's going to be more to see if you can identify who this is.
That's 18.
That would be let me find here. Whoops. Where'd my freaking notes go? You got an 18, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It was a DC 15. This victim is a middle-aged woman. You don't know her name, but you recognize her as somebody you've seen around town, a friendly face. Kind of imagine, just as you were in town the last few days and you started to see more and more familiar faces. It's a small town.
Right.
This was a woman who you don't really know anything about her. You just know that she always had a smile on her face. She seemed to be going back and forth to market, but she was just as quick to help somebody else load a wagon real quick, or crouch down and say hi to a small child. In the coming days, the investigation will reveal that this woman was here because her husband worked at the sawmill, or worked as a carpenter, was working on special projects, and had stayed late, and she had brought him a late dinner and was just leaving. At the time that you're doing this initial investigation and this murder happened, he had no idea, and you didn't know, that he was inside maybe the equivalent of a couple 100 yards away while his wife was murdered in the alley. What else would you like to do?
I don't suppose we would have lucked out, and the killer might have dropped their weapon.
No, because you saw, when you saw the silhouette,
Right.
you saw him holding the knife dripping with blood.
I guess then she's going to go chasing off. She's going to use her senses to find out where I almost said Frumpkin, to see where Monte Cristo is at and what's going on with Hemlock and the killer. Once she ascertains what's happening, she will take off in that direction.
Go ahead and give me perception or survival.
Perception it is. All right, that's a 21.
A 21 is successful enough to identify that through I almost said Frumpkin now. Through Monte Cristo's senses, you're able to see the shadow that is Chopper has gained incredible distance on Hemlock. Hemlock made a couple wrong turns. And so he has a great lead, and you see that the figure is already on a small rowboat, and traveling across to a small island that I think in this moment, even though you failed the earlier check, it's when you see through his eyes and you see where the boat is going that you remember the small island is called Stoot's Rock. That's where you heard the name Stoot before.
Oh.
And it's because it's so named because for the last 15 years, an old hermit named Jervis Stoot has lived on that island. What would you like to do with this information?
I would like to kind of wind through the streets to where I believe Hemlock is. I gotta find Hemlock and tell him.
Hemlock is probably a little surprised when I think he emerges in that sort of opening just north of where the White Deer is, before Junk Beach, the ruins of the Old Light off to the west, the Sandpoint Cathedral immediately to the east, the town of Sandpoint behind you guys. You were able, knowing where you were going, to take a more direct route. And so when he sort of runs into this area and has lost the trail, he is suddenly surprised at how quickly you have shown up there, and the fact that seeming to fly down out of the air next to you, a cat lands in the mud next to you. And he just looks at you and says, God damn it, I lost him!
It's all right, Baylor. We know who it is.
How?
Oh, well, before he passed, there was too much blood. Casp said that that Chopper was Stoot. And then I had my cat tailing you, and while you were doing your chase, and he tailed the killer to a rowboat that's heading out towards Stoot's Rock. Put two and two together.
Stoot, you're saying Jervis Stoot did this?
It's all beginning to make sense the more you think about it. Doesn't he carve little trinkets?
He's always carving those damn birds. I call them Stoot's birds. We've got one on our house.
I've only met him once, and was very quiet but very polite. It's always those polite ones.
Wait here. Don't go on without me. I'm going to get more guards. And he is going to run to the nearby Sandpoint barracks. Do you stay
Millie's
put?
just keeping an eye out to see if the boat leaves or...
The boat was already in the water heading towards Stoot Rock.
Right, if it goes anywhere besides Stoot Rock.
Yeah, I mean... Over the next couple hours, or hour or so. Everybody is, we'll say the next hour it takes to gather a bunch of the guards, get some boats together, and you and Baylor Hemlock follow or ride in a couple of rowboats that some of the guards are rowing as you move towards Stoots Rock. You and the Sandpoint garrison guards and Baylor Hemlock land the rowboats on this small island. And you see a set of stairs, stone stairs, that lead up to up this rock and to the modest home that sits on the top of this island.
Diluted blood trail, perhaps?
Indeed. At this point, the rain is letting up, and in the lantern light, you see that some of the dark puddles are indeed blood. Inside the home that Jervis Stute made, there is an open trapdoor that leads into a complex of rooms carved into the bedrock of the island underneath the home. Inside is some kind of bizarre, horrific altar to some sort of crude avian demon lord. Some kind of winged demon lord. At the base of the altar, having plucked his own eyes out of his head and cut his own tongue out of his mouth, holding them in his own hands towards the altar, is the dead body of Jervis Stute. In addition, as you look further, sort of through the I imagine this is sort of almost like over your shoulders. You're moving in to these sort of tight quarters, and you see more than one guard back out of the room, and you can hear them retching in the other room, and you see this grisly sight. And in addition to Jervis's final offering, you see all of the eyes and all of the tongues of the previous victims presented to this altar.
Millie is going to go join some guards outside at this point, once she realizes what she's seeing.
In the next few hours, I don't think it even takes that long. I think that the guards here, led by Baylor Hemlock, make a quick decision. The first thing actually I would like to have you do in the presence of this altar is I would like you to make a will saving throw.
Oh. I was about to say, after vomiting, Millie would go detect magic. But yeah, let's do that. We'll save. That's an 18.
There is a strong psychic resonance emanating from around this altar. You can already see some of the guards, you can see the anger on their faces. It's well-placed anger because word is beginning to spread that Sheriff Averton was Chopper's final victim. But this anger seems to be amplified in this space. You put up your detect magic, and you're not able to pick up on a specific element that is magically enchanted, but you definitely, it's almost like rather than detecting a specific element, you detect like a red mist in the air, strong necromantic energies. Hemlock looks at the body of Jervis Stute and the grisly offerings at this altar, looks at you and looks at everybody else and says, "Everybody out. Now." And as you all begin to filter out, he looks back at two of the guards and says, "Burn it to the ground." And they, without hesitation, they take their lanterns filled with oil and just hurl them at the altar. Glass shatters, oil spreads, and flames begin to engulf the altar. And as you all move out of the cottage and onto the little remnant of little parcel of land that is Stute's rock, the cottage catches fire. And you all stand silhouetted against this brilliant, burning pyre that is in no way meant to be a funeral or an honor. It is to erase the horrific thing that they've seen.
Cleansing.
Yes, it's a cleansing fire. In the coming days, Sheriff Baylor Hemlock will ask the local priest, Father Xantus, Father Abstelar Xantus of the Sandpoint Cathedral, to come here, bless the ashes, and then have them scattered at sea to remove any potential unholy return of evil spirits. The murders stop. Word spreads of Chopper and who he was. And in the intervening years, when the initial sting is gone, Chopper becomes a thing that parents threaten their children with. Young people tell stories around campfires about old Chopper. And every once in a while, when a murder does happen, the people in Sandpoint hold their breath and hope that there isn't more of the same. There's a funeral for Sheriff Casp Averton. I imagine Millie stays behind, and
Millie brings some flowers for Alma, his mom. Just kind of, I'm so very sorry for your loss. I would have
made a casserole or something for you, but you know me, I can't. I burn water when I try to cook.
Stick around in Sandpoint for a little bit. I'll teach you a thing or two about how to move around in a kitchen. And she smiles wanly at you, but there's still tears heavily in her eyes. After the funeral, it's made official. Deputy Baylor Hemlock is made sheriff of the town watch. In a special session convened by Mayor Kendra Deverin and the town council. The cottage was burned, the tunnels below were collapsed, the ashes were blessed and scattered, the killings stopped. The Sandpoint scars, and maybe some of your own, remain.
And nothing bad will ever happen in Sandpoint again.
And that is where we are going to end this interlude. Well,
Thank you, Jacob.
see, you knew, Tamiko knew I was going to do the dun-dun, because we had talked about, and didn't tell anybody that we were doing like a, the idea was to do a crime scene procedural, sort of Law and Order kind of thing. Tamiko knew nothing, you knew nothing about what this was going to be exactly. Just
Nope.
the time frame. You might have had an inkling, but and you certainly didn't know that I was going to do the little type, the dates and time, and type at the bottom. In fact, I told you I wasn't going to do that.
It's adorable.
But I had to do it.
Perfect.
I tried to catch. So I don't watch these procedurals. I know you've watched like every Law and Order for the last 30 years, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So actually, closer to 40 years that show's been on, isn't it?
I started in like the late 80s, I think.
So, I think that I did my best. I may not have seen Law and Order, but I've seen a ton of other procedural crime shows and tried to capture some element of that. I wanted to hit the high points and the important things, touch on some important history, and I'm not going to say who, but there was a small crossover with another character's backstory within this.
I guess I'll find out in December.
Yeah, when these air. Technically, you will already know, so I'm kind of tipping my hand a little bit. By the time we see this episode, we're seeing this episode, I think you'll have the information you need to know who I'm referring to in this episode. So, and there's always, I think there's a little bit of crossover just in terms of the time frame and everything like that. I hope you enjoyed this.
Very much.
I was right. I said probably around an hour and a half. I think we might have been a little over an hour and a half.
I was really glad that at level 2 I've got my cat, so you know.
And of the 3 we've had so far, you're the only one. You've rolled dice more and did more. Kaeryn rolled the lead. I don't think Kaeryn even rolled once. I think it was pure RP for Kaeryn's session. And we haven't recorded as of this time, Lumi and Velynia's yet, but Lumi's will be
Adorable.
next week. And Velynia's will be our last one. So thank you to whoever may have shown up to watch this. We have no idea, but future Jake and Tamiko and anybody else in the chat will probably have acknowledged you and chatted with you throughout the chat. yeah, we appreciate you if you're hanging out with us. If you did by chance contribute any subs or anything to Domain Dice, know that we appreciate that. Thank you. And if you're somebody that likes to lurk quietly in the background, or maybe you're watching on VOD later, know that we appreciate you and we hope you enjoy our presentations as much as we enjoy playing these games. And finally, just a huge thank you to all of the players. I've said it for each of these. Thank you to Cari, who was a part of the previous campaign where we did the interludes, who asked me a couple months ago, hey, are we going to do interludes? And I hadn't even thought of it at that point. And I'm glad Cari brought it up so that we could do these. It gives us such a unique chance to experience with your characters, and it changes when we come back in January how you are going to perceive all of these characters. Even though your characters don't know all these things about each other, it changes our perception as audience members. So thank you to everybody for being a part of this. And of course, a huge thank you to Tamiko, without whom this would have just been me investigating this crime all by myself for an hour and a half. With that, we're going to end this interlude the same way we end every interlude. And you can say it with me if you want. MTD